Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the installment of Scott Selections here for Sunday, December 6th. Before we get into today's play of the day, a couple of announcements to make. First of all, I'll be doing multiple videos today. I mentioned in the past if I like multiple games on a card, I'll be doing multiple videos. So for that reason, we're going to be doing one video on the NFL and one video on college basketball. So if you are looking for another pick later on in the day, you can stay tuned for that because that will be coming out. But looking at what happened yesterday before we actually get into the play of the day, we ended up going 2-3 in college football. Not great. We ended up losing with Kansas State plus 7.5. They gave up, 69 points? We won with the Nebraska-Purdue over 62.5. That got into the mid-60s. We ended up winning with Clemson minus 21.5. We ended up losing with Clemson first half minus 11.5. Both of those ended up having serious line movements that we beat, but unfortunately we ended up chopping those. And then we ended up losing a heartbreaker by taking Missouri minus 2.5 as they only won by 2 after Arkansas ended up going for a 2-point conversion with less than a minute remaining. So looking at what we did yesterday, we ended up going 2-3 for negative 1.22 units, but if Missouri ended up winning by 3 instead of 2, we would have been in the green. So it's a bit unfortunate, but it happens, and we'll be looking to bounce back here on Sunday. Now, looking at this video, we're going to be starting off with our college basketball pick. Who's going to be on a very, very obscure matchup, which so far has gone pretty well for us this season. And it's going to be on this new D1 team called Bellarmine as they end up taking on Howard, and that game should be taking place at roughly 6 p.m. Eastern time. Now, a couple reasons why I like Bellarmine in this spot. First of all, I think the line itself is pretty telling. If you look at the line movement in this game so far, Bellarmine, despite never winning a D1 game in the history of the program, opened up as a 1-point underdog, and now the line is completely flown to minus 2.5. And for that reason, I think that there's something to be said about that. So we're going to be taking Bellarmine minus 2.5 at minus 112 on DraftKings, a time recording of 6:54 a.m. Eastern time. Now, looking at how we're going to break them down first, they are awful. There's really no other way around it. This team is just one of the worst teams in all of D1, if not the worst, if you look at their performances this season, as well as their actual roster on paper. Looking at how they did last year, they obviously did pretty poorly because I'm stating how terrible they are. They went 4-29. Yeah, they went 4-29 last year. Now, they were supposed to be a lot better this year because they were able to bring in a pretty sought-after prospect in McCord Maker, as he ended up deciding to take I'd say a less popular route by going to Howard instead of one of these blue blood programs like Duke, Kentucky, etc. And, well, that hasn't really worked out. Now, looking at how he's done this season, he's done pretty well as he is currently averaging 11.5 points per game and 6 rebounds per game. Clearly the best player on the roster, not even close. Now, the issue with that is the fact that he did play in the first 2 games this season, and they lost both games by double digits. They lost to George Mason on a neutral by 14. They lost to Queens NC, which is a D2 team, by 14 points. And then they ended up playing Belmont without Maker, and they lost by 18. Now, the thing that's worth mentioning there is they lost by 17. Now, the thing that's worth mentioning is the fact that Maker is now out indefinitely because he currently has a groin injury. He's out indefinitely. So Howard is going to be using pretty much their 4-29 roster, and their best player, who was supposed to make a huge addition, is injured. And now they play against a D2 team that just got promoted to a D1 team that is very motivated. They ended up covering their first ever D1 game against Duke. I can't say they look good, but then again, Duke is clearly the much more talented team. But looking at the line movement, looking at Howard's performances, and just looking at the fact that, Bellarmine's going to be extremely motivated for this game because of the fact that they will be looking for the first D1 game victory in the history of the program. But Bellarmine, the reason why they moved up from D1 to D1 from D2 is the fact that they have been dominant in D2 in recent years. Bellarmine's coach, Scott Davenport's been there for 15 years, a long-time coach. He has a career record of 344 and 101 in D2. So Bellarmine's been a D2 powerhouse, and now they've been promoted to D1. I've already seen what Howard does against mediocre D2 talent against Queens NC, and they lost by 14 points in the process. I think Bellarmine's going to win this game pretty easily. I find the line pretty questionable, but I do understand why this line is completely flown by 3.5 points towards Bellarmine. So I think that you should see Bellarmine take care of business here. I think that Bellarmine has the experience. They do bring back their entire backcourt from last year, so you're not bringing in a bunch of new guys. This team's experienced, this team's hungry, and most importantly, this team is facing off against one of the worst D1 basketball teams in all of, I don't want to say ever, but I'd say in recent memory, because this Howard team is probably going to win around 5 games again this year, and that is not going to be ideal for the program. So for that reason, I think this line's too low. I think this line should be probably around 4 or 5. I know this line was at -2 on Bet on the Line, jumped to -3 roughly a couple minutes ago. I think this line will end up continuing to climb. I don't see much buyback on Howard, and I think that Bellarmine should win this game by probably around 6 or so. So for that reason, the play of the day here for Sunday, December 6th for college basketball is going to be on Bellarmine -2.5. It's available on DraftKings at -112. That's been Stallman Scott Selections. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.